second classes, what you will learn? Some basic architectures, very fundamental. The more the more you go into the topic, the more knowledge you gain on that, the more clarity and more confusions will come. Like in C programming, in the first 2-3 sessions, what we learned, very basics, very basics. But as we go into that, pointers, arrays, dynamic allocations, data structures, various usages. Similarly in OS concept also, I'm not expecting that in one day, second day, you'll get all understanding of details of operating system. That expectation is a wrong way of learning. So what we'll be learning today, you have already some idea about operating system. So that more clarity with some more theory, some more questions and answers we'll try to learn. So in basics of operating system, our today's objective should be defining what is operating system. And few more. First, let us discuss about what is operating system. Answer from you people. You can participate in this by unmuting and answering. Typing is difficult, so I don't want to be always in this chat window. So better you should unmute and answer. In your view, what is operating system? Yes, Windows is operating system. Linux is operating system. Unix is operating system. Android is operating system. So how do you define operating system? These are examples. Linux is example. Windows is example. Android is one more example. So define operating system in general.
Interface between user and hardware.
Okay, good point. Any other answers?
It is a software platform.
It is a software platform. Okay. So two answers I have got right now. Interface between user and hardware. And second answer, a software platform. Any other answer, or this is fine? N5, you said something?
An operating system is a system software that manages hardware and software resources.
Very good. What is that system software? Whatever definition you provide, cross questioning by interviewer is very normal. So as you said, a system software which manages
Collection of programs.
Hardware and software. System software means collection of programs. No.
OS is nothing but resource manager, sir.
OS is nothing but resource manager. Very good point. What does it mean? Interestingly, all answers are good answers. But every answer what you have here, you should have a justification for your answer. Now here, if resource manager is answer given, then you must be able to answer what is a resource meaning. If you say system software, then you have to differentiate between the software and system software. When you say it's a software platform, what is a platform meaning? You should be able to define. Okay. So let me start in another discussion. All of you, please think of this question and answer session. It is very easy one. As I already said, some concepts you already know. I'm just revising it. All of your devices currently, as you logged in this class, whether you are in Android operating system, or you are in Linux, or you are in Windows, or you are in that Mac OS. So there are 2, 3, 4 options we generally use. Consider you are using a laptop or a desktop where you have Windows operating system or Linux. Windows I'm saying because most of you are already having. Consider, okay, first question, where is that Windows or Linux operating system installed? It is somewhere present, no? So it is present in memory, no doubt. Operating system is present in memory. But if I power off the computer, again, if I power off the computer, if my class is over, you have nothing to do on your computer, your laptop, then you switched off. System switched off. So is operating system present or not present? Or your mobile
Present.
phone, for example,
Sir,
mobile phone
present.
is switched off. So is operating system present in your device or not? Yes.
So it is present. It is running in infinite loop, sir.
No, N7, wrong. But I really appreciate N7 because you have put your point. If not, then I will not understand the view, another view where I cannot clear a new point. I should appreciate your answer, but it's a wrong way. I repeat the question, or maybe my question is not well understood. So question again. After this class, I'll switch off my laptop. Okay, otherwise, yesterday I have joined with mobile handset, but I could not join with laptop. Reason? I could not boot my operating system. So when my system is off or down, switched off or down, is operating system present in my system or not? I given simple example. Your mobile is off, turned off, powered off. No application is able to run. If you switch on, then it will run. But operating system is there in your device or not there? Simple question.
Present but not in use.
Correct. That's what the answer should be. It is present, not in use. So more clarity of answer should be, it is installed in a secondary storage. I repeat, it is installed in secondary storage. What is a secondary storage device? Secondary memory means storage device. Give example of storage device.
Hard disk.
Hard disk. SSD. You know that SSD is a like complement of hard disk drive, where SSD is very fast access to the CPU as compared to general hard disk drive, which are having more mechanical parts. With SSD is like your memory card, micro SD memory card, which is very easy to handle, having no mechanical part but faster to access. So pen drive, SD card, micro SD card, CD, DVD, floppy, hard disk, SSD are various examples of secondary memory device or storage device. What is primary memory?
RAM.
Fine. Very good example of primary. See, there are many primary memory like registers inside the CPU, or even additionally cache memory, plus RAM, plus virtual memory. These are known as primary memory. Now, coming to the main part of discussion. When my system is turned off, my laptop is turned off. Currently, I'm unable to use my operating system because it is not running. It is not in primary memory, but it is still in secondary memory. That point is clear, I believe. Okay, now simple next question. It's a new question. If my hard disk drive of laptop or SSD of my laptop has been removed, where my operating system is present, operating system is installed in hard disk now or secondary storage, that is removed or that is corrupted. Some problem occurred, it is not able to be used. So I repeat, my hard disk drive, my secondary device where OS was installed is detached. So when I power on my laptop, obviously I don't find operating system to boot, but do I get any message or not on screen?
Yes.
All of you might know this. See, your operating system corrupted, or operating system not there, or hard disk corrupted, hard disk removed, whatever the case, or a brand new computer you got where new hard disk you got but nothing installed. So when you power on the device, are you getting any message or no message on screen? It's a practical point. Now, these points, if you do not know, it's not good. I mean, it's a general point. All of you must know these points. I'm waiting for answers. Question, hard disk is disconnected. That means I cannot use operating system which is present on my system. So when I try to boot my system, do I get any message or simply no message?
So because it is an interface between user and hardware, that means we are communicating with the hardware with the use of this operating system. So if it is not present in our system, then we must get a warning or something like that.
Okay. Okay. Other answers, please. That means you people have not encountered these things. Surprising. Okay, practically I cannot show you here because then I have to use a secondary camera or additional device and make my operating system down. Difficult thing, but you will find that if your operating system is corrupted or not able to boot, or the hard disk drive is not connected or having corrupted, in such cases you will generally find message like no boot device found, or no OS found, or no appropriate operating system found, or no boot device found. Such kind of error message will appear on a black screen, white characters. That error message will appear, but message will appear. That's the point. Message is going to appear. What that message showing? It is showing that operating system not found. Where it is displaying? It is displaying on my monitor. Now then also it is saying press any key to continue or escape to go to the BIOS setup. Then I go to escape or press any key to continue, then it goes to BIOS setup. In that setup utility, you see that first boot device, second boot device, USB device, CPU frequency to use. There are plenty of options are there. How many of you have seen that BIOS setup utility? Raise hand, please. BIOS setup utility. Using F1, F2 or escape or delete, you go to the BIOS setup utility on your computer or laptop. Then some settings will be there, mostly blue color, green color kind of thing, blue color, black color. Some settings we can change there. Only 3 persons. Okay. Okay, those who practically have seen it will understand it more practically on this. So obvious, isn't it? Otherwise, what you should do to gain more practically, say, how do you answer practically in an interview? If you know the things practically, you can answer practically. Otherwise, theoretically, like mug up, like history chapter. History chapter is not practical. Somebody has written, you have mug up, you have to answer. That's it. But these are practical concept. So how do you, of course, you should not remove the hard disk from your computer, isn't it? So how do you practically learn it? All of you must be finding what is a BIOS setup utility, what are the contents in it. It is not so difficult. BIOS is a firmware program mainly created by embedded programmer. One of the company like AMI, American Megatrends Incorporation, that is one of the leading BIOS manufacturer, and they get bulk of students from our institute in embedded system for firmware program writing. So in a BIOS ROM chip, this program, control program is written, and BIOS ROM program, which is getting the first power supply when the system is on, BIOS program is run first, and that will find the operating system to install. Once again, so when I power on any device, once I'm talking about mainly our computer, so first what is going to be run is BIOS setup utility. That BIOS setup utility is also known as like post power on self test. Also can be known as system integrity test. Now, any of you who can throw some more light on this practically, see, reading some theory, then posting it, it's becoming not a good way. The more practically we understand, the better. See, power on. When I make the system power on, then first my hard disk is not getting power. I mean, first my hard disk is not getting booting option. No, first is BIOS program, basic input output system. BIOS setup utility program will be running first. Anybody who is having some idea, please throw some light on it. Okay, one more question to all of you. One more question to all of you. You are working on a laptop or maybe desktop. Laptop is here a rare case. Desktop. You are working on a desktop and you found that yesterday when you were working on desktop, like in your lab, the computers time, operating systems current time clock is showing proper timing, but next day when you booted, it shows that time is a bit odd. Means time is not correct, date is not correct. Have you ever found that? Your OS is there, OS is not corrupted, OS is there, but system time is wrong, clock showing wrong time in computer. Have you seen that?
Yes, sir.
Good. Now, see, these are the points which is called as practical point. Now, if you don't see that, I can't help much. Reason, I cannot show you those things. So something we have to adjust, but those who have seen it, they'll understand it better. Practical things. Okay, M13, N5 and V6 or somebody, V4, they have seen it. So anybody you can answer why so? Why do you think so happened? I have not reinstalled operating system, but yesterday I have seen on my computer, it was showing proper clock, date and everything. But today, without installation, without reinstallation, without formatting the device, I just switched on the computer. It shows different clock, different time. I didn't change any setting. I have not reinstalled OS. If no changes done in the computer, but it happened like this, the only reason is that the CMOS battery, you know CMOS battery? The CMOS battery, the button battery, which is there on your motherboard, CPU board, has been low, battery low. If CMOS battery low, then the firmware program which is continuously running, one of your friend has answered that some program should be continuously running. Yes, not operating system continuously running. BIOS program, I mean that BIOS ROM chip should be getting power on always from the battery. Once that battery is down, then what happens? That program's default values are set. So some old calendar value is set. Default value is set. Otherwise, like your real-time clock, RTC is getting powered on, means getting continuous power from the battery, which has to be always on. So I think you getting clarity. If not getting clarity, you can ask me the doubt. So what is our point of discussion now? What is this BIOS? BIOS setup utility means what it is doing, some things like all that. Okay. Quickly coming to the conclusion. Consider I have no operating system, no Windows, no Linux, no Android on my system. So still, can I get any message from the computer to me? Yes, when I get a power on, then I find some message like error message, problem in booting. I can go to the BIOS setup utility. I can make some interactions in that, some changes in that. So am I able to interface? Question. Am I able to interface between user and hardware without operating system? Yes or no? So is there a control program? BIOS is a control program or not? BIOS setup utility is a control program or not? It is a program. It's a firmware program. It is indeed a program. But that program is not qualified as operating system. See, here mentioned that BIOS setup utility. Now, is it a program? Yes, it is a program. That means, is it a software? Yes, program means software, obviously. So if it is a software, is it controlling hardware? Yes, it has hardware understanding. It has the capability of power on self-test. That is system integrity testing. Means what? Keyboard is functioning or not, mouse is functioning or not, USB devices are all proper or not, monitor device getting response or not. This kind of feedback checking will be there. But basic devices, printer, scanner, it cannot check. So repeat. Is BIOS a program which is having some kind of interface between user and hardware? Yes, it does. Is it a software? Yes, it's a software. But is it an operating system? No, it is not operating system. So if I say what is operating system, and I say it is an interface between user and hardware, it is a program which is interface between user and hardware. To some extent it is correct, to some extent it is wrong. That means every interface programs between user and hardware are not operating system. I repeat, what I'm trying to clarify from all this time is like this. All user interface programs or all programs which are interface between hardware and user are not operating systems. This is a point I wanted to clarify. If it is clear or not clear. See, the other point is correct. Operating system provides interface between user and hardware. That's correct. But reverse is not true. All programs which are interface between hardware and user are not operating system. They are firmware programs. They are having interface between hardware, means direct contact with hardware, like the bus controllers, the device drivers, and at the other side, user interaction through keyboard, through mouse, possible. But are they operating system? No, they are not. Okay, this is the first initial point I wanted to clarify to define what is operating system. It is a software, no doubt, but it is not a regular software like from the last 6-7 months you created hundreds of softwares. Every program you created which is working is a software, but it is operating system also not like those programs. So how do we define operating system? Okay, can I say operating system is a software, but it is a very complex software? Yes or no? It is complex indeed. And operating systems, entire new operating systems are not written in days or weeks. Even with very high, huge number of intelligent programmers pool, whether it is Microsoft or it is any other organizations, they create new operating system after doing a lot of research and hard work. It is not like every developer create operating system every now and then. It is not. So obviously operating system is a very complex, very large, very sophisticated software. These adjectives we should add. Why it is complex software? It should have user interface, looks better for user interaction. It should have device integration, device understanding, all USB devices, keyboard, mouse, printer, other devices it should connect, graphical devices. Moreover, the operating system is working, as very well mentioned, a platform. What's a platform here? See, in this current operating system where I am working now, you can see in the left hand side, there is Zoom app running. You can see there is a editor app, Journal++ running. You can see the Firefox browser is running. You can see a lot of jobs running. And if you see here, PS-E, it's for listing the jobs. These are the running jobs. See, there are thousands of more jobs are there which is not running, like calculator not running. Chrome browser is there but not running. So, but these are the jobs running currently. So currently, how many jobs are in memory? If I see, $279 jobs are currently in memory. 279, quite large. I mean, huge numbers. But do I have 279 CPUs to handle that? No, I don't have. So if I do not have hundreds of CPUs, I do not have hundreds of accumulators, I do not have hundreds of program counters, I do not have hundreds of stack pointers, then how hundreds of jobs are running? That is known as a resource manager. This feature is known as resource manager, which manages the hardware. Again, so 2 points here, which you people have said. I'm trying to justify that theoretical concept. The operating system Linux here is a software platform. I'm able to launch as many number of softwares I want for me. I am running a browser here. I am now using a Zoom application. I have got editor, terminal window. I have got this Journal++ for whiteboard, means writing. A lot of things. Plus plenty more, which I have not initiated, but still there in memory. Can you find these things like Journal++ and other things? Yeah, that we also you can find. Can you see here Firefox? Here Firefox. Firefox job ID is 4534 in my current primary memory. Journal app, that's where I'm editing. Process ID 2002. Zoom app, process ID 1938. Again, being multi-threading, multi-processing job 1936, 1938. 2 jobs are there, 2 windows are there. We'll also come to discussion about why such many job IDs. Okay, so what's the point of discussion? These definitions what you provided, I'm trying to justify them. What is operating system? Is it interface between user and hardware? Yes. Is it a software platform? Yes. Is it a system software? Yes. Why system software? It is having the low level, hardware level, bus controllers, device drivers, communication directly. So system software, which manages hardware and software. Managing hardware meaning hardware can be CPU, hardware can be RAM, hardware can be hard disk. So managing RAM meaning what? See, I have RAM of 8 GB. Okay, consider I have 8 GB. Having RAM 8 GB, but my 200 jobs are requiring altogether more than 20 GB. Consider. Still, I am able to run. My requirement 20 GB. I have only RAM of 8 GB. Still, my 20 GB applications will run. How? That is called managing memory. I have 200 jobs, but I have a octa-core CPU or quad-core CPU. Having a quad-core CPU, having 4 number of core of CPU simultaneously can run, but I'm able to execute 200 jobs simultaneously. How? This is known as CPU management. Hence, the operating system is known as a resource management software. Okay, I'll explain something more which is written here but not discussed completely. So trying to clarify that first. When you search in Google booting process of computer, then you'll find a lot of clarity, but I have to explain some of them. So I have opened and trying to explain one of them. So what we have just now discussed, when I switch on the system, BIOS is the first one which is in active state, BIOS program. So what is a BIOS program doing? BIOS is what? It's a hardware. It's a ROM chip. BIOS is a ROM chip. So BIOS ROM chip, what it is having? It is having a control program. What it will do? It will do the power on self test. That is also known as system integrity check. Means very fundamental, basic devices are functioning properly or not. Keyboard is working or not. Mouse is getting proper power or not. I mean, touchpad or mouse. Monitor is properly working or not. Those are. But if all BIOS basic integrity check has been passed, in the BIOS itself, some of you might know, there is a boot sequence. Isn't it? You know, boot sequence. If you go for boot sequence selection, you'll find in BIOS ROM programs, boot sequence check, first boot device is CD or hard disk, or if you have hard disk plus SSD, for example, then SSD, or network interface card through network. So different types of booting, pen drive booting are possible. That means if booting device, first boot device is pen drive, then once system integrity check is done, then pen drive content will be boot. Or if CD has been chosen, then CD device will be found and that will be used for booting. But by default, most of cases in my system also, hard disk has been chosen, that SSD. So if hard disk has been chosen or any device, boot device chosen, the first sector in the device is known as master boot record, MBR, master boot record. So what is the purpose of master boot record? Master boot record will contain, see, yesterday somebody was asking Lilo. I said that in master boot record, Lilo is present. Lilo.configuration file or grub.configuration file is present. So grub possible, Lilo possible. Some other methods are there. In Windows, it's a different method used. So what is this Lilo file or grub file? What are they? They are called as bootloader. They are known as bootloader. What is the purpose of them? They will locate where is the presence of operating system, or also known as kernel files. Operating system internal means kernel files. So executing grub file will search and available, make the kernel available. So kernel will be launching, KERNEL, not kernel. And kernel while launching, then it is executing initd. What is initd? In Linux system, init daemon meaning initiating levels. What is level? It is a graphical user interface or it is a command user interface. Will it be a multi-user interface or is it a single user interface? Those kind of run levels are set. There are 0 to 6, 7 run levels are present. One of them selected and executed. So this is called booting process in the Linux. There are plenty more variations are there, but all are same concept. Look at this, it's more clarity given. Power on. You can see in the right hand side what I'm showing, or better I should annotate. Spotlight. So power on, load the BIOS from the non-volatile RAM. That is your BIOS ROM. It is also known as, it's a EEPROM device, electrically erasable. Probe for hardware, system integrity check, and also this BIOS ROM will decide that which is the first boot device. So probe for the hardware. Select boot device, that is your hard disk, memory card, means USB device or network device. So from there, this bootloader. Okay, first system partition, that is the first bootable device system partition means what? master boot record. What is master boot record? Is the first 512 bytes only, which is known as master boot record. What is present in that partition? In that, when you go for hard disk installation, new installation, then you go for partition C drive, D drive, E drive, like that. So what happens in that partition? Initial sector is known as master boot record. So there grub must be present, grub like loader, bootloader. So bootloader is on. So then bootloader decides which is the first boot device. Like I told you yesterday, Windows or Linux or multiple operating system, you can choose. Whichever is chosen by default or you choose, that kernel file is loaded. That kernel file loading is a very complex process that we cannot deal in detail. But see here, systemd or init, known as process ID 1, is the first application getting run. Now, which kind of booting? This is a question asked in interview. What one of your friends said yesterday. Yes, this is a very fundamental concept. If you do not know this fundamental concept, then believe me, if I am the interviewer, I should reject you. So you are a student and unable to answer. It is very normal that if you are rejected. Okay, now questions on it. Okay, no questions. Now the main point which we started for discussion today is that what is resource manager, how to define operating system. That's the point here. So tell me what I should write here to fill this. Power on BIOS setup utility, which is like system integrated testing. What next?
Boot loading.
Boot device selection. Better in the BIOS setup, the next point, if I say, it's like boot device selection. Or first boot device. Then what happens? Then master boot record on the boot device. Then from there, what is going to be used? A bootloader or bootstrap. See, I said bootloader, grub, some say Lilo, some say simply saying that bootstrap. Bootstrap actually in BIOS setup, it's bootloader, it's called as bootloader. But different names of bootloaders are there, not to get confused. Bootloader will decide the kernel file, right? Then kernel file is brought into memory. Okay, now quick point. BIOS setup utility program is also a software, whereas kernel files is also software. So what is the major difference between BIOS set software and kernel software? Kernel as a software is also interface between user and hardware. Yes. BIOS setup program is also user interface. Yes. Then what is the major difference? Major difference is already written by you people. The BIOS utility program is not a resource manager, whereas your operating systems are qualified to manage resource. Who can answer me right now that why BIOS setup utility, BIOS software is not a resource manager, whereas operating system is a resource manager? Who can justify? Once again, every program, every software which are interface programs, that orange color written, all programs which are interface between user and hardware are not operating systems. So BIOS program is also not operating system. Justify. Nobody answering? Okay. Okay. Question again. Why BIOS program, which is having user interface, user and hardware interface, not operating system? Simple reason, BIOS is not a resource manager. Because operating system must be a resource manager. Operating system must be a resource manager. What is a resource manager meaning? Writing again. What is resource in resource management? In OS, the resource can be CPU, that's a main resource. Primary memory like RAM, so we call it as memory. Secondary memory, that is storage device, files. Then you have input output devices, means buses and all. Network devices, network management with TCP/IP. You have interrupts, so plenty of them to be managed. So what is this managing meaning? That I'm trying to clarify in a simple point, which is already shared with you, a document. See, this is the PDF document which is already shared with you in your LMS. See, a simple diagram, block diagram of operating system. Look at the operating system, which is in between system and application program and hardware. So who is interacting with hardware? Operating system. Like for example, I'm using Zoom application. So user one, look at the user one, is using the Zoom application. But Zoom application is launched on operating system. So operating system is a platform. Operating system is a platform for the Zoom. And how that Zoom is using the networking devices and other? Through operating system, via operating system. So here is the first point mentioned. An operating system is a program that manages the computer hardware. It also provides a basis for for application programs and act as an intermediary between the computer user and computer hardware. Second point mentioned you see here, operating system primarily provides services for running applications on a computer system. A computer system can be divided roughly into 4 components: hardware, operating system, application program, and user. As it said, roughly, because there are many controversies and many options possible. Embedded OS, real-time OS, many things. What is mentioned here, observe, process management is also known as CPU management. Main memory management, also known as memory management. Similarly, file management, device management, network management are various services operating system provides. This group of services are altogether known as kernel. Kernel means what? Core of operating system is known as kernel. Okay, some more points. Multiple applications running simultaneously or concurrently are known as multiprocessing. Example, current example, on my system, Zoom app is running. I have already shown you multiple jobs. So in my system, is it a multiprocessing? Yes, it is. Benefit of multiprocessing is execution of one application is not dependent on other application execution. Most of the operating systems are providing multiprocessing system. Multiprocessing, that is job concurrency. Multiprocessing means job concurrency. Job concurrency can be achieved basically in 2 ways: hardware multiprocessing and software multiprocessing. What is hardware multiprocessing? Multiple core of CPU. Either we have, like in server, number of CPUs, multiple CPU chips, or in a single chip, multiple core of CPU. That is known as hardware multiprocessing. What is software multiprocessing? It is a multi-programming basically. Means what? It's a single CPU core still able to execute more number of jobs. How does it happen? Like for example, I am the single resource here to talk to your doubts or to clarify your doubts. So if 4 people are having doubt at the same time, I cannot answer at the same time, right? So I have to answer one by one. But consider 4 number of faculties simultaneously joined this class. So if 4 students have raised hand, all the 4 faculties will distribute to each of the questions to be answered. That is known as I said, multi-core or multiple CPUs. Even you have got 4 faculties at a time to answer 4 students' doubt, but if 10 students are having doubt simultaneously, we cannot generate 10 faculties, isn't it? So that 4 faculties has to manage the resource. That's how it works. In hardware multiprocessing system, 2 or more CPUs, processors, are in close communication and each CPU execute separate application. It can. For example, dual core, quad core. They share computer bus and sometimes clock, memory, and peripherals. They share the common thing. As this example shows, diagram, you can see in the left hand side, hardware multiprocessing, multiple CPUs, whereas in software multiprocessing, single CPU, multiple application. Interestingly, left hand side, which is hardware multiprocessing, is also having software multiprocessing. How? 3 CPUs. If there are 30 jobs, then one CPU has to handle one by one, like in software multiprocessing. So hardware multiprocessing means multiple CPU chips we have or not. But software multiprocessing is very normal, and that is what is called as process management or CPU management, managing the available resource for huge number of demands. In software multiprocessing, all applications have to share a single CPU. Means actually all application, we should not say here, generally more than one. If one process is waiting for any instance to happen, then CPU is made engaged with other jobs. This is generally achieved based on time slice. We'll discuss all this detail starting from tomorrow. All these concepts in practical, technical details will come to know. One more general point, shell. Look at the right hand side diagram. At the bottom is hardware. Hardware is controlled by kernel. But how we communicate to kernel? Command interpreter in Linux, or known as shell. So how to talk to the shell? By direct commands. So what is shell? Shell is a user program or its environment provided by users interaction, provided for users interaction. User has to talk to kernel by using shell. Shell is a command language interpreter that executes commands read from the standard input device. Shell is not part of system kernel, but uses system kernel to execute program. These points can be more confusing, I understand, for the first time, but these points will be practically understood. What is executing in kernel means, what is kernel's execution, what is shell's execution. These all points will be very clearly explained. That is the point of these sessions required to discuss. But as I already said, in one session, all the things not possible. I'm not going to talk more about this because it will be confusing. Practically, I'll give you all these points. So what you should do, if you can go through this document, read it, although it is not so interesting. Even if you read it, still it is useful for me in tomorrow's class. Even if you don't read it, so most of the concept written in this PDF document will be completed tomorrow. Now next doubts. So what is our objective of learning this concept? Objective of our next 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, 20 to 24 session will be learning OS. Means what? Learning the kernel. What is kernel? Core of operating system. What is core? This is the core. Main memory management, file management, device management, process management. These are known as core. That we have to learn. Any other, there should be a lot of doubts. We have not started anything, but for the timing, any doubt? If no doubt, I'll close the meeting. It's a lot of theory. So when a lot of theory, I do not generally interested in extending the session. Reason, it's like story. But when practical starting, maybe tomorrow onwards, commands and practical, then I'll extend the session. Sir, when booting the PC or laptop, BIOS takes place first. That means it requires RAM to manage remaining like MBR and kernel. Yes, is a point. K6.
Waiting.
K6, you're unmuted. Okay. Host to everyone in waiting room. Why is everyone in waiting room? Okay, first couple of issues here. B8, V19HE8B8. Did you get any permission to join this class?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then V20HE6V1. Did you get the permission also?
Yes, sir.
From where?
Front office. Sir.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, fine. So, and also please let me know, because I am doing experiment without making our staff resource busy with the co-hosting unnecessarily, because a resource crunch is there, they are busy with the work. So unnecessary co-host, I was not, I want to reduce that work. So I'm making students as co-host. I have seen that from last few days, starting of the classes, whomever I have done co-host, they're working very good. Means I didn't find many students waiting. All are been accepted promptly. But still you might have seen I'm making not one, but 2 or 3 students as co-host. Reason, if one of the students is having issue, then other will be able to handle it. So it is not like any tussle or confusion. So if you find the co-host I'm talking, so whenever you find a student waiting, it will be anyway notified, then immediately accept that. Point one. Second, if any of you student are waiting for a very long time in waiting room, then please let me know. Let me know that it is not working, so I'll arrange for official co-host. Okay, I just started all these points because I found the message like host to everyone in waiting room. So that is why. Okay, so question is, sir, when booting the PC or laptop, BIOS take place first. That means it requires RAM to manage remaining like MBR and kernel. The point is, to most extent, is correct. Practically again, whose our question it is. While starting my discussion today, I started with a practical scenario like, if my laptop or desktop is not having hard disk, then what happens? What message you get? Such thing, isn't it? Now another scenario. Have you seen the RAM in your motherboard, laptop or desktop? Have you seen the RAM? If you have seen the RAM, it's a small stick kind of thing, not a stick. We can say you have seen a rectangular chip, like a bit larger, like sometimes 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches, depends on various motherboards what is used there. Different types of RAMs are also present. This RAM stick, it is also known as, are being as an external device normally inserted on the motherboard, its main board. By chance, the RAM not working, interesting, RAM not working, consider RAM sticks are removed, okay, and power on the system. You will not get BIOS available. I mean, BIOS is there, it is functioning, but it will not be working with the buzzers, with the beep buzzers. System will not be able to boot at all. I mean, no messages also. So conclusion, when RAM not there, even BIOS program cannot be loaded. Simple buzzer will be there, buzzer sound, and system cannot boot, not possible. But without hard disk, BIOS ROM can work, but again RAM is mandatory. Okay, why I'm discussing all these points? Is it my, actually these are not my requirement of discussion. Just like in C programming, what is program, what is application, what is process, that is generally not a C programmer's faculty's job. But I have to clarify that, otherwise any new concept learning is useless without fundamental clarity. So some of the points I'm discussing here to ensure that you know it. Gradually, I find my students are less to that. Reason, I should only blame on less usage of computers. I'll again tell you, The more you use computer, laptop and desktop, the more you should be acquainted with its installation, with its failures, with device malfunctioning. Then you will be getting more clarity on the things. But the less we use computer, the more we use mobile handset, we are completely sidelined from there. So I cannot blame the things, only blame I can put on the availability and usage of mobile handset, because it's easy, handy, able to work. We are less dependent on laptop, desktop, and that is a cause of problem. Why cause of problem? Out of 50 students in the classroom, I found only 4 or 5 are acquainted with these things. Anyway, that's the reason precisely why I have to clarify the points, but I cannot go beyond certain limit, because it becomes like unnecessary discussion. So what is the next point of discussion? In next point means tomorrow's class discussion will be on content of kernel. That will take minimum 2 weeks of classes, starting with process management. So tomorrow's topic, process management, or known as CPU management, with lot of commands of Linux. If no doubt, then I'll close the meeting.
Sir, can I speak, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sir, actually, I have an old laptop.
You have an
You
M13,
said right,
M13
sir,
signal broken.
previously.
M13 signal broke. Repeat again. You
I
have
have an old laptop.
old laptop, huh?
Old laptop.
Yep.
You said right, without changing OS or without uninstalling OS, date and time will be changed automatically. What could be solution for that, sir?
Nearby any computer shop, if you go for and ask for a CMOS battery for the laptop, then CMOS battery from the back side of your laptop easily we can replace. Be careful while removing the screws and all, but it is very easy. You should not go to any repair man. Reason that service persons unnecessarily may give reasons of adding more cost to your repair work. But if you are finding this is a problem, that is your every time clock showing differently, it is a very simple. The CMOS battery is not more than some 80 rupees or 100 rupees cost, hardly.
Okay.
Easily you can replace it, just like a battery replacement. Do the battery replacement, all work.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
But you should ask CMOS battery, not the laptop battery. You should be clear with that. Laptop battery is very heavy duty and very large, bulky. CMOS battery is a button battery, small button type battery, flat button actually. Okay then. And it is good thing if you have some old device, then do experiment on it, because being it is staying useless, do some experiment on it. It's a good idea. Installations, reinstallation, different types of OS installation, such things will definitely learn more. Okay, why I said definitely learn more? Once you go for installation, after that you need networking, means internet. So internet setup again, so IP address configuration, gateway configuration, this will be helping in networking concept, client server programming. So these fundamentals are actually required. But in mobile handset, again the same problem. We have a Wi-Fi router, we have data connections. Without knowing what is going on internally, we connect and work. So that actually misses a lot of point, skips a lot of point. So again, just good point by M13. I got to add a point to you. If you have an old desktop or laptop, do some experiment on it. Load OS, any OS, a free OS like Windows XP, or prior to Windows XP, or Windows 7, or a Linux, any Linux. try to make network work there, internet, TCP/IP configuration, you'll struggle and maybe thinking, oh, why I'm doing this, it's useless. It is not useless. It is very helpful in answering the things practically in interview. Okay, then if no doubt, I'll close the meeting. Thank you.